So welcome everyone. So we are on week 8 of prayers and meditations by the Mother. And today we have two prayers with us. February 15, 1914 and February 16, 1914. So let us start with this first prayer. Yeah, anyone who feels ready, it would be nice if one can read first and then share their reflections. Yeah, who wants to go first? Anyone who feels ready? Okay, Rashmi ji, namaste.
Namaste, Dr. Monica.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
I'm joining after
a long time. Yeah,
long time.
Yeah. Good to have you. Yeah.
So I'll just read and listen to all of you. Yeah.
Please. Yeah, sure.
February 15th, 1914. O thou, sole reality, light of our light and life of our life, love supreme, Saviour of the world, grant that more and more I may be perfectly awakened into the awareness of thy constant presence. Let all my acts conform to thy law. Let there be no difference between my will and thine. Extricate me from the illusory consciousness of my mind. From its world of fantasies, let me identify my consciousness with the absolute consciousness, for that art thou. Give me constancy in the will to attain the end. Give me firmness and energy and the courage which shakes off all torpor and lassitude. Give me the peace of perfect disinterestedness, the peace that makes thy presence felt, thy intervention effective, the peace that is ever victorious over all bad will and even every obscurity. Grant, I implore thee, that all in my being may be identified with thee. May I be nothing else any more than a flame of love, utterly awakened to a supreme realization of thee.
Anything you want to share on this right now, Rashmi ji?
I will listen to all of you maybe afterwards. If
Okay. Okay, sure. Thank you for reading it out. Yes. Yeah, anyone who wants to go next, share their reflections, any lines that you resonated with, any insights. Yeah, anyone?
Namaste, I will go.
Yes, Chitra ji, I think Till has unmuted also.
Yeah. Let them go. Yeah.
Till, you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So Chitra ji, you go ahead. After you, Till can share, please.
Okay. I think this prayer we already shared, no, in one of the, last series or before that.
Yes, we
remember.
have.
Yeah. Remember actually. That time, and again, I will read about this prayer, what MP Pandit said actually. About this is a very important prayer. This prayer is one of the most important prayers in the whole collection. And this is from MP Pandit, one of the sadhak in ashram, who lived when Mother Shirbindo was there physically. My introduction to this life was through this prayer. My guide wrote it out for me. At that time, things were not printed. He asked me to, his guide is Kabali Shastriya. He asked me to commit it to memory and recite it every day and meditate upon it. This is also the prayer which Mother used to repeat on the roof above my office near the Samadhi. Every morning on her way to the terrace upstairs, She used to take a few quick rounds on this roof with a small umbrella, and she would repeat audibly in French, of course, this prayer. This has a mantric effect and reminds every moment of the mold in which our life is to flow. The life of a sadhak has to shape itself in terms of this prayer. So this is the saying by MP Pandit actually. Yes, this is a prayer, one of the first prayer I used to read from the beginning, from 1998, 99 onwards. I don't know, yeah, because all the lines are very important in this prayer actually. O thou sole reality, light of our light and life of our life, love supreme, savior of the world, grant that more and more I may be perfectly awakened into the awareness of thy constant presence. Yes, Mother brought out very, very important thing in this lines actually, yeah, because awaken to the awareness of thy constant presence. Maybe I used to repeat this prayer always because for me, that time I don't know about those awareness and all. I didn't feel that actually, but this third line, no, extricate me from the illusory consciousness of my mind, from its world of fantasies. Yes, this line helped me a lot in my whole life from 1998 onwards till today. This is a very important line. I used to always repeat and recite whenever I face any problem with myself or with circumstances. Extricate me from the illusory consciousness of my mind, from its world of fantasies. I feel this very, very important because only the mind will build up all the things and give us and bring the obstacles also in the path. So I feel this is a very important line. And then, yes, let me identify my consciousness with the absolute consciousness. For that art thou. Yeah, but recently, that awareness and the identification with the divine consciousness, everything little I could feel. Maybe this line extricate me, this line take me further to that stage. I feel like that. And another two things. Give me constancy in the will to attain the end. Yes, this is the very much, this must be a prayer for everyone. Give me constancy in the will to attain the end. Give me firmness and energy and the courage which shakes off all torpor and lassitude. Yes, this is very important, I feel. Give me the peace of perfect disinterestedness, the peace that makes thy presence felt and thy intervention effective, the peace that is ever victorious over all bad will and every obscurity. Here also I want to share something, my own experience. I used to call peace every morning after brushing my teeth and taking a cup of water and sit for some time and call the peace like a friend I used to call. Then only I will go for meditation actually. That helped me a lot. Even now it is helping me calling peace actually. So maybe that all interconnected. I feel that extrication from the illusory consciousness of mind, that peace will settle in. But the peace that is ever victorious over all bad will and every obscurity, there I find really a lack in me actually, because in the morning, if no circumstances are unfavorable, or if there is no crisis and if there is no problem, yes, I can feel that peace throughout the day. Otherwise, that peace is not it. I feel victorious and against bad will and every obscurity. That also depends upon myself only actually. Yeah, I used to pray that let the peace continue for throughout the day, every day, every day. Yeah, because this is very important. I feel the peace that is ever victorious over all bad will and every obscurity. Again and again, all these lines are mantras in this prayer. Yes, last one. Grant, I implore thee, that all in my being may be identified with thee, may be nothing else anymore than a flame of love. Yes, that flame of love, yeah, it's only Divine Mother, utterly awakened to a supreme realization of thee. Yes, all these lines are mantric lines, and the whole prayer is a very important prayer. Yeah, thanks for bringing this prayer again, Monica. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing beautifully. Yeah, thank you, Chitraji. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very, very relevant again, lines. Yes, beautiful. So anyone who wants to go next? I think till you wanted to share. Do you want to go next?
Yes, I will make an effort
Please,
because
please. Yeah.
we have heard such beautiful reflections that I think, who am I? But one of the feelings I get is that this prayer is learning to know what it is all about. The intimacy with God, the way the mother addresses him in her prayer is such profoundness. And when I read the first line, I'm picking out life of our life, I got a kind of flash, like this could mean that our living, the way we do it normally, so-called normally, it is not necessary to live as reaching out, but we are living as a part of that consciousness. So there's a comfort around everything you do. You only have to trust and give yourself to it. And the Savior of the world, I'm also a Christian, so we have in this time of the year, of course, the awaiting for the light with the name of Jesus. And I really have this urge that I would love to feel this then. I would really love to feel this. And in the second part of the prayer, give me constancy in the will. Well, I pray for that one because concentrating is not too easy for me right now. And my mind is wandering about. So this really hits the target. This one sentence, give me constancy in the will to attain the end. Give me firmness and energy and courage. Sorry. Which shakes off all torpor and lassitude. Well, and if we get extricated from this as a inner reward, so to say, not a reward, but well, I hope you understand what I tried to express. It's the peace that awaits you once every turmoil has calmed down. And well, then you can really be who you truly are. That's my feel with this prayer. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Till. Yeah. You know, one thing which I want to add on here, I think what makes these sessions very, very intimate and relevant for each one of us is that we are really opening ourselves up, and we are not, you know, it's not an ego booster sessions here that we are doing. It's almost the opposite of that. So each authentic reflection that we share, not comparing any reflection with anyone, just like you cannot compare apples with oranges, you know, so each authentic reflection is most welcome. It's like a flower at the feet of the Divine Mother. And that's what we are here for, you know, to walk each other home. And all of us are walking each other home. You know, there no one who has arrived. That's the beauty, that there is no one who has arrived. We can never arrive at the divine, you know, such a long and arduous journey. It's just like going on and on and on, just like we cannot reach perfection. We can always be a better and better and still better version of ourselves. And that's the beauty. So I really feel blessed that we have all of us here who are ready to walk this path together and open also ourselves. And also whenever we open ourselves, we become unburdened, and mother's light uh, is shed over those darknesses and shadows which all of us have. There is no one who does not have darkness and shadows and challenges. So let's keep on walking and holding indirectly each other's hands by being as authentic as we can be. Yeah, so thank you, Till. That was a very welcome reflection from you. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, anyone who wants to go next? Jishnuji, you have come after a long time. If you want to go next.
Thank you, Monica ji and others.
Yes.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Chitra ji, for sharing such a beautiful background or anecdote about this prayer. I did not know that what MP Pandit said about it, because as you said, that if Kapali Shastri had written it down and asked him to memorize, it was very important for him. And that comment that everyone's life, every sadhak's life should be molded around that was very important and significant for us to know. I was also not aware that Mother used to speak audibly this prayer and go around the ashram, which means that she herself gave great importance to it, which makes it more significant. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for sharing, team. It was very, very important what you shared. Apart from that, the prayer, as I read, I guess what the core thing, what I felt about it is, and it is for us to learn, for us to not to learn, rather to see that even here, what Mother is seeking is for herself, for others, that to be sincere. When she is saying that, let all my acts conform to thy law. Basically, what she is saying is that let me be sincere. Let me be absolutely sincere. And that is what probably MP Pandit said, that all sadhak's life should be molded around that. And we see that most of the, and we will see in the next prayer as well, most of the confusion, conflicts, majority, which we create, and why it is because of the small or large insincerities within us. And without judging, because the thing is, as Monica ji rightly said, that we are all human beings and we should respect this journey from darkness to light, from the insincerity to sincerity. Once we are sincere, once we try to be sincere, of course, the things become difficult. That is why Mother has written this. Once we try and act as per the calling of our heart, as per the calling of the divine, then things become simple for each one of us individually. It may be outwardly difficult, but inwardly it becomes simple. And that is what Mother is saying, that if we can act according to your law. Extricate me from all the illusionary consciousness of my mind, from the world of fantasies. Let me identify my consciousness with absolute consciousness. For that art thou. And what is that? All these illusions of the mind, all these dualities are temporary. And Mother is saying, so let me identify with the absolute, that which is absolute, permanent, timeless. Let me be identified with that. Because if we see and if we reflect on each one of our life, the troubles, the raging sea of desires, all the other troubles, most of these are temporary. Over a period of time, they pass away. What stays with us is our internal aspiration. What is most valuable for us is the aspiration and how we work towards that. And then, as Chitradi said, and his mother has written, extricate me. Because when we are in that level, we as if we value in that mud. As Sri Aurobindo has said, we are valuing in that mud. And we are unable to ourselves come out of it. And that's why Mother is saying, pick me out of it. Just pick me out of it and put it at a separate place, as we at times we do with small insects or our pets. We take that being from mud or something and pick it up and put it in a clean place. Exactly, that is Mother is using that simile and saying, extricate me out of it. And then I think something very important what she is seeking is constancy in the will, that is the steady effort, single-mindedness, firmness and energy and courage. Firmness, energy and courage that shakes off all torpor and lassitude. When we are overwhelmed, when we identify with the external confusions, dualities, when we think what we want to do or not to do, these are all dualities, choices. All this, like in modern terminology, they say analysis paralysis, that at times stops us from doing what we should do, that at times makes us lazy, that makes us, and lazy means not in terms of action or inaction. When I say lazy means not doing what we are supposed to do. We are just passing the time with action or inaction, but we are not doing what we are supposed to do. And so that courage to do the right thing, the energy, the firmness to do, that will take us out from this vortex of these forces, these confusions, the dualities that is stopping us from being who we are. That would be my reflections on this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jishnuji. Yes. I think it's a long, long way for each one of us. So just being kind to ourselves, that since the patterns are so old, we are so habituated to our patterns, living as Jishnuji said, identifying with all that is going on in the head, the feelings, the patterns of thought and emotions. We are so used to living like that, identified with that again and again we take that route, not even wantingly, as if we don't have any choice. And slowly, as we become mindful or conscious, as Mother says, that become conscious of our inner movements, then slowly, we kind of detach ourselves from the mechanical repeated patterns of our living. And only then a further step can arise, which is disidentification from the patterns of thought and emotions. That's what where Mother says that let me identify my consciousness with the absolute consciousness. So parallelly, disidentification is happening from the thoughts, feelings, sense perceptions, not me, not me, not me. And parallelly, an identification with the consciousness that sees all the patterns, the awareness that is conscious of all the patterns on thoughts, opinions, ideas, parallelly identification with that consciousness, knowing myself as that consciousness. This Mother repeats in almost all the prayers, that identify my or unite my consciousness with thine. This is something which comes again and again with Mother's prayers. So it again tells us the path to be followed. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Jishnuji. Yeah, anyone who wants to go next, share anything that you want to, anything that you resonated with, or a few lines, or maybe the whole, whatever, please feel free. Yeah.
I'll listen, Monica, today. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So if in case you come up,
Yeah.
Shweta, with anything,
Sure.
please do share.
Yeah. Very grateful for this prayer. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll share a few things. I think most of it, all of you have already beautifully covered. This thing, soul reality, so that nothing else is real but you know. And whenever she talks about this, it's amazing that all of the times our consciousness is identified with either thoughts, or feelings, or this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm sensing, perceiving, these are my demands, these are my expectations, and this is me. So most of the times I am the thought, most of the times I am the feeling. And in that identification with our patterns of thought and feelings and sensations, we forget to look at the knowing with which we know the thought. And that's why many masters have said that it's so simple that we don't get it. Because mind looks for sophisticated stuff. That how can this be so simple? This can't be it, this can't be it. It has to be complicated. And Kabir, Kabirji with his couplets, he also shares that it is so sahaj, like it's our true nature. Awareness is our true nature. Consciousness is our true nature. Because of consciousness only, I become conscious of a thought. How do I know what is the story in my head? Because I'm conscious of the story. I know the story. So, but the story, the knowing is so transparent, like as if it does not want itself to be seen. And that's what we were reading that day in Savitri, that Purusha surrenders willfully, that yes, I will become a supernumerary on the stage. That was the line that came up in Savitri that day, that let me be an extra, let me not be seen. So the consciousness with which I see a thought is totally ignored. That's what we call ignorance. While the drama of the thought and feeling is always seen. That's Prakriti. And that too has a purpose, because Prakriti also has to go forward and absolutely manifest the divine in thought, feeling, and sense perceptions. So it's not that it's happening without any purpose. And that's what Mother and Sri Aurobindo have shown us the path towards a supramental race, where everything, even the material stuff, the physical stuff, will become divine. Not that it will obscure the divinity. So this soul reality, which can be also likened to space, it's because of the space that the furniture exists. But we are so focused on the furniture, the thought, feelings, sense perceptions, that we totally ignore the space from which a thought arises. We totally ignore the space from which the feeling arises. While if not for the space, no manifestation can be. That's why consciousness has also been likened to space, or maybe blue sky where clouds appear and disappear. So this is very important. I feel that you are the soul reality. Without you, nothing can be. Without awareness, can I know a thought? Light of our light of our consciousness, the light with which I see a thought, that's the light of divine consciousness. But most of the times I just am lost in the thought rather than looking at the light itself with which sees the thought and life of our life. And it's because of that life is there. Love supreme. And it is, whenever we talk about absolute consciousness, or in Buddhism, we can call it, I had shared this word with you, Rigpa, which means pristine awareness, or what Mother and Sri Aurobindo say, absolute consciousness. When we become stabilized as that consciousness, that is parallel with love. That's synonymous with love. Love is another name for that presence of consciousness. And that's why all of us have felt that whenever in those little moments, we are not clinging to any desires, expectations, demands. We just are. We are full of love. There is no demand from anybody or life in those few moments. But that's another thing, that ego has the tendency to come back again. It appears and it appears that it has disappeared, but then it comes again. So that's why, feels like an illusion almost. Sometimes it's there, sometimes feels like it's not there. But that's why vigilance is required, and sincerity, as Jishnuji was sharing, vigilance and sincerity, that always be on our guard to see the action of ego, to stabilize ourselves in that consciousness. Savior of the world. And when I am identified with that presence of consciousness within, I am knowing myself as that consciousness, that awareness, and not as the story going on in my head, then it saves me. It saves me from the bhav sagar. In Hindi we call it bhav sagar, an emotional overwhelm, like a sea full of waves, very dark and heavy. That's where we get lost. Savior of the world. And immediately, the moment, if I can have this sudden shift owing to the presence of grace, which is omnipresent, this sudden shift that a moment ago I was identifying with the story in my head, and in this moment I choose, because there is free will, I choose not to identify with that story and to know myself as the knowing with which I know the story. The game changes. That's where free will comes into picture. Grant that more and more I may be perfectly awakened into the awareness of this constant presence. So this is what we have been reiterating upon. Grant that more and more I may be perfectly awakened, long journey, perfectly awakened into the awareness. It's not that you're not there, but I am not aware that you are there, because I'm so lost in the drama going on in my head. Perfectly awakened into the awareness of thy constant presence. So to become aware of our true nature, of this presence of consciousness, presence of awareness, presence of a knowing with which we know everything. Let all my acts conform to thy law. Let there be no difference between my will and thine. And when we are stabilized at that, as that awareness, we do not need anything from the world. We do not need anything from any person. The behavior may happen, this or that. But my completion is not dependent on that person fixing his behavior. That will happen. That's also important. Whatever is external is also important. But my completion, my inner contentment and fulfillment is now not dependent on any external situation changing. That does not mean that the external situation will not change or should not change. Extricate me from the illusory consciousness of my mind. Thoughts and feelings have been likened to like bubbles, like bubbles are. They appear so have you seen, colored bubbles? Soap bubbles are so colorful, they are attractive. But the moment you go closer or maybe touch it, gone. It's like, so it's illusory. It appears very solid. And why it appears very solid? Because we give it power. The more I identify with these bubbles of my thoughts and feelings, I am fueling its power. I am fueling its solidity. And the moment I extricate myself, owing to the presence of grace, I'm able to extricate myself from the identification with these bubbles of thoughts and feelings, which do not really appear like bubbles. They appear so solid. Immediately, I become liberated from the knot of ego. Extricate me from the illusory consciousness of my mind. All the thoughts going on in our head, they appear so important. So important they appear, that as if I do not act according to this thought, the world will really, turn upside down. But people, masters have come and gone, and yet the world goes on. And it's me who is clinging to those thoughts, making it so important, losing my peace and sanity in the process. So I think this prayer, as Jishnuji, Chitraji, you were sharing, that it's a very important prayer. because it reminds us what to give priority to. Extricate me from the illusory consciousness of my mind to know that whatever I'm thinking or feeling may be relatively true, but it's not absolutely true. So I don't have to cling to my opinions and ideas in my head, because that clinging causes suffering. From its world of fantasies, I'm sure all of us have tasted that fantasy, how it builds up itself, the head, and it creates such a huge story out of nothing. And we cling on to that story for years, lifetime. We cling on to that story, what that person did to me and what I did to that person. And, you touch it and it's a bubble gone. Where is the story? Let me identify. So here is the solution she presents again and again through every prayer. Let me identify my consciousness with the absolute consciousness. For that art thou. The bubbles, the illusions of thoughts, feelings, that is not who you truly are. That is a creation of you, absolutely. That is Prakriti coming out of you only. But who are you truly? For that art thou, that knowing in the background of thoughts, feelings, and sensations is you, is your absolute consciousness, while we get lost in the Maya most of the time, the Prakriti. So the Prakriti has to change. That's what Mother and Sri Aurobindo, have shared with us, that this has to change. Each thought has to become divine, but it cannot become divine if I do not take throne as the presence of consciousness, because only then I can have mastery over my thoughts and feelings. Only then I can dictate them rather than being dictated by them. And this is really beautiful. Some of you emphasized upon it. Give me constancy, because we suffer here because we don't have that constancy. There are so many other things that become important, and we lose our knowing ourselves as the presence of consciousness. We lose it. So to remind ourselves, the reminders, Mother says, remember and offer, remember and offer. Have a parallel consciousness. That parallelly you are doing works in the world, and parallelly you know yourself as that knowing, you know yourself as that consciousness. It's a difficult task, but then we have all the capacity, the moment we are ready. Give me constancy in the will to attain the end. And will also keeps on fluctuating. Many a times it partners the ego. And at times maybe, okay, let thy will be done. But most of the times we are partnering the ego, egoistic will. So give it constancy in the will to attain the end, that the will unifies also with aspiration, the highest and deepest aspiration. Give me firmness and energy and courage, which shakes off all the laziness, laziness, the moment we sit to meditate, lying down meditation or sitting meditation, how easily we many a times are able to fall into a lassitude, like a dumbness almost, many of us, and it comes from time to time. This happens because we are born into that torpor. So it's not an easy task, but if we have pain in life, which is a beautiful master, pain and suffering, beautiful masters. I think with that intensity, we can turn the tables around, because I have also felt personally that pain really has something, some power, as long as we are lazy. If we are not lazy, then there is no need for pain. But as long as we are lazy, we don't want to get rid of our patterns and habits. I think pain has some unique niche, or it has a place in this world. And that's why in Savitri we have a chapter on pain, the problem of pain and why it is required. Give me the peace of perfect disinterestedness. So when I am stabilized as the knowing, not focusing on the content of consciousness, but knowing myself as consciousness itself, I am not really interested whether this should happen or that should happen. I'm sure all of us have tasted that, because there is a certitude that whatever will be happening will be for a higher good. So here we kind of taste that perfect disinterestedness, that Ego does not have its own interests and agendas in following this path. Peace of perfect disinterestedness. And she's also sharing that only in perfect disinterestedness one can find peace. So it's vice versa. So if I'm lacking peace right now in my life, definitely I've become interested in some or the other happening, that this should happen like this and that should happen like that. I've become maybe too interested in the external happening. The peace that makes thy presence felt and thy intervention effective. So when I consciously know myself as that presence of consciousness, the divine is intervening in my life. I'm becoming receptive to the divine to intervene in my life. The peace that is ever victorious over all bad will and every obscurity. Bad will changes into goodwill when we are stabilized as that. Grant, I implore thee that all in my being may be identified with thee. So each, as Alokda in many talks he shares, each thought, each feeling, long way for each one of us to go. Each thought, each feeling, each movement is turned to the divine, as if you are living solely for the divine and there is nothing else that you have secret motives from your life. Identified with thee. May I be nothing else any more than a flame of love. And as we shared that the moment I am identified as that presence of consciousness, I am love. I am love. Love is another name for divine. Utterly awakened to a supreme realization of thee. So I think it's like, again, as each prayer in itself is like a little mantra for our whole life. Even if we don't read the whole book of prayers, we stick to this one little prayer. The only problem is that we keep on unsticking also. So that's why we have to take more and more prayers, because it's good to remind ourselves. So really very, very powerful, like mantra, as Chitraji was sharing in the beginning. Yeah. Very rich and intense. Yeah, anyone wants to add on?
Yeah.
Hello, Monica.
Hi, Luba. Yeah, please. Yeah, was it Luba or I don't know?
No,
Claudia?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please continue.
Yes, Claudia, please.
Thank you. I just have this question about let all my acts conform to thy law. What is that law? What is that sincerity that you was speaking about? Because usually in life, I mean, we say, I am sincere. So for this reason, I say such a horrible thing to that person because he deserved it, because I am very sincere. Or I am sincere with my life. For this reason, I dress this way and I don't care about you, but I am sincere with this, with what I follow. Yes. So what is that sincerity, or what is that love?
Yeah. Anyone wants to share anything on what Claudia is mentioning? Yes, Jishnuji.
Oh, that sincerity or that law is surely, if you receive any intuition of the divine, then it is that. We all receive intuition, but we are not, but we are blinded by our personal desires. So we do not pay attention to what we see or what we, or when such intuitions come to us. Till that intuition comes to us, that is till we go to that stage, we have to use reason, that is being rational part of our mind, to operate how we do. Mother often said that people are in haste to leave reason when they come to yoga, whereas Reason should be abandoned at last once once we go beyond the realm of reason and capable of receiving these higher intuitions. Just to give an example, Mother and Sri Aurobindo often said these social norms of how we work are not important for a spiritual person. And then Mother has said, extended, but that does not mean that you work or you take actions for your personal desires, to fulfill personal desires. The social norms are there so that, and they are based on certain rules, based on different cultures, based on different culture norms of the country, so that the society or the country or that framework can continue, can work. Once a person, and unless one person has received some higher intuition to transcend that, one should not break. There, I think I had shared separately, or we did collectively separately. Mother, so basically the question then comes is, how do we know what the divine wants from us? And Mother has also spoken about it. I think we read it collectively. She said, but only thing is I am not remembering in exactly. She said there are few things. If one is attentive, one can know what the divine wants from us. And the first thing she said is not to have any preference. Usually we feel the divine wants what is good for me personally. Probably no. It may be good for me, or what we think as good for ourselves. It may not be good for what we think is not good for me. That may also be possible. So the first thing is not to have any preference. The second thing is, once you receive that intuition, once you receive that sense of doing, act on it. That is, you should act immediately on it. The other two I'm unable to recollect right now, but I can search after this session and share to a wider group. It may also come to the question that, or whatever intuitions we receive, are they all from the divine? And Sri Aurobindo has answered that if you receive such things, like you receive your internal messages or guidance to work or not to work on certain things, and Sri Aurobindo was Mother, they were like psychologists and scientists. So Sri Aurobindo said, if you receive such guidance, always observe it carefully to see that, unless of course it's a stress situation where you don't have so much time to reflect, that you observe yourself carefully to see that from what part of your being it comes. And if you act on it, if you have acted on it, then you see what is the impact of that. What is the impact of taking a path, taking an action upon you? So once you observe slowly, as I think Monica ji shared earlier in this, most probably Monica only shared that, to be vigilant, to see the impact of ego in our actions. That is, let's take an example that you received a guidance to do something and we have acted on it. And then later we should also reflect and analyze, okay, so did I act out of ego or I was really disinterested? And we will come to know, based on the results that we obtain, we will come to know from which part of the being it came from, whether it was a higher intuition or it was just based on desire. And slowly we will, once we are conscious of it, we will be able to discern and eliminate, if we are sincere, we will be eliminate to most of the actions or the guidances that we receive based on personal preference and desires.
Yeah.
That's all from my side. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Jishnuji. Yeah, Claudia.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, anyone else? Anything to add?
I only one thing, Monica ji, I
Yes,
had
please.
I had unmuted. I just wanted to draw attention to one place. Here, Mother is saying the peace from disinterestedness. When I read it, it struck me, but I forgot verbalizing when I spoke that most of all this confusion, dualities come because we are interested in something. We are interested in our viewpoint. We are interested in our personal preference. And it's very funny. Mother said somewhere that when some people come to me and say, I don't know what I have, I don't know what I should do. Mother said, usually I tell him, which means that you have some preference. All this in our normal life, usual life, I would say. And what is usual life? Sri Aurobindo, somebody asked that, what is normal life? Sri Aurobindo said, normal life means where all your actions are guided by ego and desire. If we analyze all our daily life, we will see our actions are guided by ego and desire, usually. Not by any disinterested guidance that we have received or a disinterested motive, not usually. And so in your normal or usual life, we feel disappointed, we feel crestfallen, heartbroken. And why it is so? Because what we had wanted on that point of time did not happen. So if we are able to become disinterested, of course, it's very difficult. And that's what Monica ji explained, went on to explain that if we are identifying with the events, we are identifying with thoughts, senses, actions and reactions. But if we are able to be disinterested, which means we are not identifying ourselves with which path to take, what is happening around us, that gives us a peace. And Mother is saying that perfect peace, or the peace that comes from perfect disinterestedness.
Yeah, thank you, Jishnuji, for bringing it up again. Yeah, I think it's very, very important. And Mother also shares when she talks about, this, what vocation shall I take? Somebody, they were reflecting upon this question, what is my true vocation in this life? What is that I'm supposed to do in this life? So she shares that until a point that I come to a perfect vocation, which is the purpose maybe of my life, before that, whatever comes on my way, if I can do that in a, kind of like a servitude to the divine, like an offering to the divine, that's a perfect attitude. Just like you were sharing, that not having this preference, only this type of work I will do, only that type of work I'll do, but whatever I'm offered by the universe, I take it up and do it as an offering to the divine. So she shares about that disinterestedness there also. Yeah, very, very relevant. Yeah. Anyone else? Anything on this? Okay, so what do you think? Shall we take this one today, or I don't know, because it's almost like 7:54 now. If I don't have any kind of preference here, I am happy to sit, and if everyone wants to continue, shall we continue?
I think we can, to do justice, we can do it later. Otherwise, we might do it hurriedly.
Do it in a hurry. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
That's
great.
how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because since the discussions are deep, maybe we can spend some time and go.
Perfect. Okay. I think sounds good. So if everyone is okay with that, I'll not share a big prayer for the next week, so that we can take this up and a little prayer also. Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Because
Okay.
it is a very deep prayer, as you
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Great. So thank you everyone for collectively listening, reflecting, and being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.